Welcome back to Target Score Vancouver podcast, and welcome to episode 3. It is Chris Wiggins on the sidelines of the CEBL alongside Andrew Savory, play-by-play with the Vancouver Bandits. We are back for episode 3. We appreciate you coming along for the ride for the first couple of episodes, and we've had a lot of fun. Don't forget, this is all part of the Target Score podcast network. Joey and Taylor in Winnipeg, Matt Bonomi and D in Brampton. So tune into the Target Score podcast. You can follow along at Target Score Pod on social media, on Instagram and on YouTube as well. So Savory, we've got the Bandits heading off to their probably their toughest road trip yet, heading off to Niagara and then following up with Brampton. But let's start with that 2-game homestand. Opening weekend at the LEC. That place was effing rocking, man. That place was insane. I said it to Evan Gilliard on the floor. You know, one of the most hostile environments in the CEBL, toughest place to play in the CEBL, and you could feel it this past weekend. And the Bandits escaped with 2 wins. And starting to kind of find themselves after that tough loss in Edmonton after returning home. What did you see this weekend?
Yeah, first up, I agree with that reputation. When you're looking at LAC, you're looking at the Sea Bears, you're looking at the Alliance, some of the biggest, most hostile environments, really passionate fans. And there's other arenas as well that I haven't even named. But 2 sellouts, back-to-back, double-digit victories. You got to wonder why. Everyone knows that the Vancouver Bandits like to show out on their home court floor, and they do so. It was packed.
I'd add Niagara in there as well, man. I think the NRL have a pretty hostile environment as well. I'd add Niagara in there too.
They do, and they'll let you know about it too. Like, their fans are vocal. They're going to get into you. And when teams travel there, the players are going to come back and be like, hey, they were on us. Like, we wanted to get out of there bad. Like, let's get on the bus. Let's go home. But it was a really big character game. I think both of them were for the Vancouver Bandits for 2 different reasons. One, Edmonton, the weekend prior, you lose by 13. 2 bench points, not great. 6 assists, well below your average historically and where you'd want to be for the season. Then you come back for the weekend, 2 back-to-back double-digit wins, and the bench responds, 60 bench points over 2 games, 48 assists over 2 games. Those are huge tallies, and you got to see some other secondary performances. How about Miller Kopp, one of the best players on the court all weekend, really came out fiery. And Chris, we'd be waiting for him to arrive. It's safe to say Miller Kopp is here for Vancouver.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. Like I talked to Kyle Julius after our win over Calgary, and I was like, hey, like, we're thinking about getting Miller Kopp on the show, and I know you're waiting for some guys to show up. Like, should I bother asking for Miller to come on as a guest? Like, is he going to be shipped out of town in a couple of weeks? And Kyle was like, no, man, he's here to stay. So, and he proved it, right? He proved it. And you talked about, that Miller Kopp. We're waiting for that Miller Kopp breakout game. We saw flashes of what Miller Kopp can bring to this team, in that exhibition game at LEC. Yes, I know it's university, players that they were playing against, but like it's a new environment, it's a new league, it's a new building, it's a new country, right? He may have been to Canada maybe once or twice, with the Raptors, playing against the Raptors 905. So this is all new to him, and that's what he said to me pregame too. I was like, I just said flat out, I was like, look, like it feels like you're taking a little bit to adjust to this league, to adjust to this team. Like, what's going on? And he was like, look, man, it's new. Everything's, this is all new to me. And so I just need a couple of reps. I need a couple of games and I'll be just fine. And he showed out this weekend. So look for Miller Kopp to kind of settle into his own, and I feel like he's found that spot in this offense where when Jalen House gets into the paint, and defenses collapse, like that's going to be the first kick out, or maybe it's a kick out and a swing to Miller Kopp. And if you leave that guy open, like, it's going down. So it's nice to see him, see a couple go in. And, I imagine the confidence is starting to build nicely for Miller Kopp. And so speaking of Kyle Julius, speaking of that game against Calgary, I mean, look, man, no love lost. I guess I hit the funny bone with that question to Kyle Julius pregame. I said, look, like, is there some revenge on the line tonight? And then I asked, Evan Gilliard about his response at halftime. I was like, Kyle said, I really don't like those guys. What's your response? And so it kind of generated some conversation on social media. It re-sparked that, that dislike for each other after that Western, Conference semifinal last year. And that's good. This league this league needs it. We need that, that fan engagement. We need those, differing opinions from different fan bases. We need this is our year. We're coming back again this year. It was really great to see that traffic, online, and clearly that Western semifinal a year ago is still a soft spot for this Vancouver team.
Yeah, we're going to see how it goes ultimately. Obviously, a long way to go to the playoffs, but you never know. Those matchups are going to unfold. It was crazy. Like when we are doing the pregame show, Vancouver, Calgary meeting in 5 of each of the past postseasons consecutively, and the most recent 3 all being
That's
settled by
crazy.
2 points or less. So you go
That's
Calgary
crazy.
wins in 23, Vancouver in 24, Calgary in 25. But that just speaks to the organizational prowess of both teams. Like they recruit well, they're ready to compete. They got strong imports. They got strong Canadians. So 2 upper tier organizations in the CBL. But I also want to give Evan Gilliard his flowers. Like up until that calf strain, like you probably remember he had to leave the court. I think it was somewhere in the 4th quarter, early on, maybe late 3rd. I'd have to
Yeah,
check.
I was gonna say late third, early fourth. I
Yeah,
remember it was in a big moment of the game, and it was a 6 point game at the time.
exactly. And 31 points, 11 of 17, highly efficient, 4 of 7 from deep, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals as well. Like this is a guy who's just screams CBL all first team, and it's crowded at the top. There's a lot of guards up
Yeah,
there. You got Jalen House, you have Sean East. So it's going to be fun when it comes to awards season. I'm super hyped about that. But Vancouver, Calgary, much like Vancouver, Edmonton, are going to play 4 times, 3 more times, I guess I should say, for the rest of this season. But as I look at it, like what are the areas of address for this team? You've said it yourself many times on the last show too. This team's not a finished product. This road trip is going to make them look inward, regardless of how it goes. You have a successful trip. Is this going to be our mold going forward? You have an unsuccessful trip. What do we need to shift? And you said it, like we still probably haven't seen the best version of Michael Mulder, but I think we saw more leadership from Mike Mulder, which is
yeah,
exactly why he was brought
yeah.
to this team this past weekend.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought that vocal leader would go to Tyrese this summer, Tyrese Samuel. And don't get me wrong, like, there's some moments where Tyrese is that vocal leader. You saw that social media clip where he's kind of getting into those younger guys, on the practice floor, and that's great. But it seems like the vocal leader right now is Michael Mulder. And to your point, we're waiting for that Michael Mulder, coming out game, just like Miller Kopp had this past weekend. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a really tough road trip for them. Despite Niagara's start, Niagara's still Niagara, right? Like just like Vancouver, who, yes, we haven't won a championship yet, but there's still that championship pedigree. There's still that, high expectation every summer. Niagara is just like that. They're coming off another championship, one of the most decorated teams in CBL history. And so you can't really take them lightly. And then you run into Brampton, who are loaded and who are 4-0. And so on the road after a game against Niagara, like that's going to be a tough one for Vancouver too. And so, you're going to have those Mike Mulders that finally step up, right? You're going to have maybe a little bit more, more touches for Tyrese, maybe, a few less shots for Jalen House. I know he had 30 against Edmonton, and then he kind of dialed it back a little bit. I'll give him his flowers. He did have 17 assists, even though he put up 30 shots, which is crazy to me, considering he had 32 points and 17 assists. Like, that guy takes 10, 5, 10 less shots. Maybe he has 20 dimes. Maybe he has 22 dimes. Honestly, right? If Tyrese gets a few more, touches, and we're gonna have a conversation with D and Matt Bonomi, hosts of Target Score Brampton, and on the sidelines on the call with Brampton. That's coming up very shortly on this episode here of Target Score Vancouver. So we'll get more into the Brampton game a little bit later, but that's going to be a tough game for Vancouver. It's going to be a tough road trip. I'd like to see, Michael Mulder find his. I'd like to see him, start to take more of like a lead by an example on the floor instead of vocally roll. I love that Jalen House kind of took, a little bit more of a leadership, role in terms of distributing and shooting less. He went from 30 shots against Edmonton to 20 shots against Calgary. And you could see the difference I actually thought they played a better game all around against Calgary Despite what it may or may not have looked like on the stat sheet, I thought everything was a little bit more rounded against Calgary. And you could tell because Jalen takes 10 less shots. Yes, he only had 9 assists, but there are still guys like, Mike Mulder, and there are still guys like Miller Kopp and Tyrese, and Dwayne pitched in with a couple. I know Dominic Perolin has been balling as a Canadian University guy, with big minutes. So that road trip is going to be tough, and yeah, we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, and for the West Coast fans, obviously our Vancouverites tuning into this, like I really encourage you to get to know the Eastern rosters. Right now, it looks like we may be starting to see some disparity in the standings in the West. Obviously, it's still early, so take that with a massive grain of salt. But there's two teams in the
Yeah,
West without a W. And then you have Vancouver 3-1, Winnipeg 3-2, Edmonton 1-3. But two of those losses coming against Vancouver and Winnipeg. But then you look at the East and Brampton, Scarborough, last two undefeated teams. But then you have a logjam. You have Niagara 2-2, Montreal now 2-2, Ottawa 2-3. And Vancouver's going to have to go through three of those five over the next 5 days once the weekend starts. And
yeah,
like, just look at the roster. Like Niagara's defense, Kimball McKenzie taking over tenor for Vic Razzo. And yeah, he started 0-2, but he's just getting his feet wet. But now tonight, like Kimball McKenzie just really putting together a defensive masterclass. Like when you look at the game from tonight, they held Javon Freeman Liberty to just 9 points, which you're talking about a former NBA guy not having a super successful scoring game. And then on their side, they had four different scores in double digits as well for Niagara tonight. So that's going to be a really hard punch to the face on Friday. And then we'll get to Brampton when we talk to Dee and Matt. But when you look at Ottawa, like Javonte Smart, you're looking at Matthew Cleveland as well, Alex Fudge, like the list goes on. And Vancouver's going to come home with a couple bruises.
yeah. Look, we record this episode on a Tuesday. Is it Monday or Tuesday? God, I don't know. I'm in Ontario and you're in BC. It's Monday, right? It's Monday. No, it's Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. It's a
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
God, man, it's Tuesday. Okay, so we record this on a Tuesday evening, and that's when Niagara is taking on Montreal. Of course, Niagara with an 87-72 win over the Alliance. So they're back to 500, and like you said, it's going to be a tough road trip. Niagara's going to punch first at home, and look, they're the defending champs. They're the defending champs until they're not the defending champs anymore. And so what I really am concerned about with Vancouver is, and I alluded to this with our conversation with Matt and D. I just think there's too many lapses on the defensive end with this Vancouver team, and I've been around that Vancouver huddle a couple of times over the last couple games over that homestand, and Kyle says it right to them. It's just like we're giving up too many easy buckets. Like their main strategy, from what I took from listening to the timeouts against Calgary, was like, let's not let Evan Gilliard touch the ball. If he touches the ball and he gets rid of the ball does not go back into his hands. And a lot of the times it did. Again, easier said than done. I'm on this side of the computer screen. I'm not on the floor guarding Evan Gilliard. However, I do think that defensively, Vancouver is just not where Kyle wants them to be. And I don't know if that's a personnel thing. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a chemistry thing, but I think that's going to bite them, this weekend, whether it be against Niagara, definitely against Brampton, because they're loaded. So that's my concern with Vancouver. Again, we talked about Michael Mulder. I want to see a little bit more from him. I think you and I were both very impressed by, Jarkel Joyner, even, his first game with this team, and looked really, really good, in my opinion. What did you think?
Yeah, Jarkel, like he had probably one of the most all-around games out of anyone on the floor. When you look at the efficiency, especially like you and I kind of being stats nerds, like he had the best plus minus of anyone combined of both teams. He was plus 24 when he was on the floor, 9 of 15, 22 points in 28 minutes, almost a point a minute. You're looking at 5 boards, 7 assists, and just what he was able to do also in target score time when things were kind of sputtering on offense. I think Calgary opened on definitely at least a 5 or a 6-0 run. I'd have to go back or double check. But then it was Jarkel getting to the cup. He showed that he could score in isolation, but the 7 assists tells me that he's also capable of getting others involved compared to just 3 turnovers, which was rare because it was a turnover happy game for Vancouver. And that's why I think this road trip is going to be really good for them as we look ahead, because it's not characteristic of a Kyle Julius team to rack up 21 turnovers. So a road trip is probably the best way to clean things up because there's going to be no room for error when you're facing the class of the East.
Yeah, that was the number I was going to point out as well. I know you had highlighted that on our pregame notes show, but our pregame notes, but 21 turnovers. Turnovers are starting to be a bit of a sneaky issue for me with Vancouver. So if they can clean that up, it's going to be, it's going to obviously help them this weekend or this week when they come to Niagara and Brampton. But yeah, turnovers for me are a bit of a sneaky issue with this team. 21, way too many, despite the victory against Calgary. If you give 21 turnovers to Brampton, you're toast, in my opinion. You really are. And so I was listening to Jarkel Joyner's post-game chat, and of course they asked him about the Calgary thing. You weren't here last year, but, you're probably well aware of the history between these two teams. This guy bought right in. He was like, I don't like this team either, and he hadn't been here last year. So it's cool to see him come into the culture, come into the fold right away, and adapt to what's being thrown at him. And that's really, really impressive. It's not easy to do. And Jalen House too, man. This guy's adapting very well. And so these are going to be some really great games this week. And yeah, Brampton, Vancouver, man, that's going to be must-see TV. And by the way, Jameer Nelson Jr. hasn't even arrived yet. Brampton's 4-0. So we talked a lot about Brampton. We talked a lot about Jameer Nelson Jr., what that's going to look like for this team. With Target Score Brampton, Matt Bonomi, D running the sidelines. Matt Bonomi's on play-by-play with Brampton. I know they kind of circulate between, Niagara and Brampton and Scarborough. They're doing a lot of stuff with Brampton this year. So we had a lot of fun. We did an Avengers. I'm not a movie guy. Is that the correct term? Avengers,
the Avengers,
Four. The Avengers. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic Four, the Avengers. It's like a crossover episode. Target Score Brampton, Target Score Vancouver. We're highlighting that Vancouver Brampton coming up later this week. Let's get to that chat right now.
All right, it's the Fantastic Four, Andrew Savory and Chris Wiggins from the West Coast, Best Coast. Welcome. Yeah, throw it up, Chris. I don't even know what that means.
Isn't that like Avengers or something like that?
I don't know. It's some weird. D definitely has a poster up on his wall. Fellas, thanks for joining. We're glad to be talking to you today. What's going on? You guys have internet on the West Coast, I hear? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, we do have internet on the West Coast. We have Wi-Fi, yeah. However, Bell is horrible on the West Coast. I'm a freelancer with Bell, so Bell, don't listen to this. Bell is horrible on the West Coast.
Wow, there goes a potential sponsor.
Yeah, no kidding.
When I moved out, I switched from Rogers to TELUS. It happens. I don't know what it is. Connectivity out here is terrible. You go on a hike and you might as well not come home. You're just stuck there.
Smart man. I'm literally walking around my house like this trying to find a signal sometimes. It's bad.
Just brutal. All right, guys, the purpose of this joint venture here to preview the Vancouver Bandits and Brampton Honey Badgers game, which is happening on Saturday. That is 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. CBC Gem, YouTube through CEBL and CBC pages. This is going to be a heck of a game. Vancouver 3-1 record. Brampton undefeated, one of the two undefeated teams left in the Canadian Elite Basketball League. They are 4-0. 14th all-time meeting between these two teams. Vancouver leading the series 7-6. Chris, why don't you start us off? What has the Vancouver season been like so far? How are you guys kind of rolling on the West Coast?
Man, it's been weird. Honestly, the word is weird. These guys were off to a kind of an interesting start. 1-1 on the first road trip. Blew out the first, the new look Saskatoon Mamba, and then they kind of ran into some stingy defense in Edmonton. They got their revenge when Edmonton came back to LEC. Then they, took care of business against Calgary Surge. Where I think they're still trying to find a little bit of their identity. However, I think they're in tough against this Brampton Honey Badger squad, man. I see the 4-0 record above your head. I think you're gonna be adding to that number on the left a few more times this season. Vancouver, like many teams, are waiting for a number of guys to show up. Kyle Julius is very candid about that. And with all due respect to some of the guys that are on the bench right now, some of them are placeholders, and I think they probably know that. There's some big names that I'm not sure if we can say on the podcast, but that are coming back. You'll recognize some of them. They've been here before. So it'll be interesting to see how, that kind of plays out over the next few weeks. But yeah, it's been weird. It's been a weird start, but they made up for it last weekend with that 2-0 homestand over Edmonton and Calgary. Savory, what are you seeing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I often like to say the CBL is like a tale of three seasons. You have like your start of season roster, you have your middle season when they go to summer league, and then you have your end of season roster that's making that playoff push. And you may have some U Sports guys filling in, a couple G League guys to start, but like I think the Bandits had a quick pull of the plug after that game against Edmonton. Like Chris, you were there at a practice right after. I think Kyle said it was one of the worst games he's ever coached in a Bandits uniform since he joined the league in 2020. And like the Bandits still have that high octane offense. Like I think they're averaging around 112 points a night, but their defense is also allowing a bit. So at some points, they're going to have that offensive sputter, and it's going to be, is their defense going to pick up the slack? Right now, it's not. They've struggled with a little bit of isolation basketball. The offense is a ton of fun to watch, but I think when they come into Niagara and Brampton, I think this East Coast road trip is really going to put them to the test. I think it's coming at the right time. I think Edmonton was a gut punch, but I think Brampton and also Niagara and Ottawa is a really tough swing for this team.
D, I'll say this to you as well. Like, how far can this Brampton Honey Badgers team go? I don't think Vancouver has enough guys defensively to contain Sean East II, contain Ambrose Hilton. I don't think there's enough guys on Vancouver that, like, quite frankly, like, they've struggled defensively, and Kyle's made that very, very clear. They've tried to clean up a lot of things defensively over the last couple of games. How far can this Honey Badgers team go?
Yeah, I think Matt and I just keep talking about how the roof for this team is so high, and I think coming out of the gate and starting 4-0 was a big surprise to us, just because we knew what Sean East was capable of, but we didn't know what the pieces around him would look like. And the fact that Keon just suited up in his first game, coming off the bench, looked a little rusty. Obviously, he's got a chemistry and relationship with Sean that we're gonna see flourish throughout the course of the season. But then they're adding Jameer Nelson, and this team is already good on defense. It's already tops in the league in steals, and then you add last year's league leader in steals to this team. Like, this team is really, really built identity on defense. And talking to Serta, that was kind of a priority to him. And with the past teams that he's coached, they've always been top efficient offensive team, but it's the defense that kind of gets slept on. And I think the really exciting thing for me about this matchup is you talked about the offense and how great this offense house is, and Jalen House has been this revelation, which I'd love to talk to you guys about. But they're coming into a Brampton building where they're the best team on defense. So whose offense is going to click, right? Both teams love to shoot the three. I think they're 1 and 2 and threes, knocking down. They're both in the top three, and knocking down triples. So I think both these teams are going to live and die on the three, and it's going to be a matter of who's able to get those stops on the perimeter. And, Matt, I know, you've been talking a lot about, some of the pieces on the side, like Tyson, for example, went 7 for 8 from 3-point land, didn't take a single two. And that's kind of been his MO. And he's just been such a great surprise for this team.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a couple of numbers at you fellas, if you don't mind. Big numbers guy over here. The math is about to math. Under 80 points, that Vancouver-Edmonton game, that was shocking to me. I feel like I don't want OLG to come after me, but if I bet that and hit that, I would be recording this in this house and sleeping in the house beside me that I did purchase with my winnings. That was crazy that Vancouver hit under 80 points in a game. I thought that was stunning. But sometimes you need that kind of kicking from behind. And then D, you were talking about Cam Tyson. So 66 points for Tyson on the season have come from three. He has 72 total points. So
that's crazy.
All but 6 of his points have come from 3-point land, which is crazy to me. The supporting cast for Brampton is obviously unbelievable. And D and I were talking about this. If you're catching this on our pod, we talked about how this is the first year in a long time where if Vancouver came in the building last year, it was okay, well, Vancouver's here. We're here to watch Vancouver in Brampton. Well, now it's we're here to watch Brampton in Brampton, and anybody who comes in has to beat Brampton, kind of thing, which has changed the perspective for a lot of people, I think, in the CEBL, and most importantly, players, coaching staff, and how they deal with these kind of matchups now too. Right? It's kind of a different ball game. But you guys mentioned a couple names. Jalen House, 30 points per game, 10 assists per game, unbelievable. Sean East, 24 points per game, 9 assists per game. Also unbelievable. These are two kind of MVP candidates. So, Chris, I'll toss this back to you. Jalen House is from a distance, at least on this side of the country, looks like he's as advertised stats wise. What goes into his game? What would kind of catch your attention if you were a fan of another team watching him? Like, how would you kind of describe his play?
And Chris, if I can add to what
Yeah,
Matt's
please
asking
do.
you,
Please do.
did you guys see this coming? Like, I'm sure Kyle was high on him, but did you ever expect it to be on this level?
No, it's funny you say that because I remember talking to Kyle during that university, like the Bandits University Combine, and I was like, okay, this roster looks a lot different than last year. Obviously there's some guys that are coming, and he was like, yeah, we've got a contract in front of somebody that if they sign, I think can be an MVP, level guy again, Mitch Creek level guy again. And that's all he said. And I didn't know where that was going to go. Clearly that's Jalen House. And it's funny, like sometimes I think he gets really, really dribble heavy. He, when he makes paint touches, like everything collapses and he can kick out. What's crazy is the guy set a new single CEBL game record with 17 assists. The same game, he scored 32 points. He's our leading scorer, right? And I'm like, okay, this guy's he's taking 30 shots. Like he's taking too many shots. And I look down, and I'm like, the guy had 17 assists.
Yeah.
Like he's still distributing as well as he's scoring, which is mind-blowing to me because sometimes it feels like he takes way too many shots. And then I look down and he's got 12 assists in the third quarter. I'm like, what's happening? Xavier, are you seeing the same thing?
It's funny. To put that in perspective, you hit it. He had, 12 of 30 that night, scored 30 points, 17 assists. But the Bandits alone only took 89 shots that night. And he took literally technically more than 33% of them, which is just nuts. So you think about how do you rack up 17 times while doing that. But like you look at his overseas stats, he's the son of NBA lore. Obviously, you have Eddie House as his dad, Mike Bibby as his uncle. Who knows? Maybe we get a Mike Bibby sighting out on the West Coast. That'd be pretty cool. So we better be listening. But I also want to know when I look at Brampton, you guys talked about Cam Tyson and also Matthew Moncrief. Both these guys played for Seattle U, I believe. I know Matthew is from Toronto, of course, but then Cam is from Bothell, Washington. But you guys are bringing these West Coasters over. So for those who enjoyed watching them at Seattle, but are now watching them in Brampton, like what's the scouting report on these guys? It seems like Matthew's all over the glass and then Cam's just filling it up from deep. It's crazy. 5.5 threes a game.
Yeah, D, I'm just gonna bring out the fake notes really quick to give these guys throw them off track a little bit here. I can start with Cam Tyson. Cam Tyson has actually a really cool story. So we're talking about talking to assistant GM John Ross, who was with Calgary last year as an assistant coach. He's the man. Experience with the Portland Trailblazers, Rip City Remix. So he's a West Coast guy, originally from Indiana. So he made his way out there, kind of cut his teeth, and then came back this way in the form of the Canadian Elite Basketball League. But he tells a cool story about Cam Tyson of how when he went to go recruit and kind of scout for the team, he went with Rock, Jermaine Anderson, the team's GM, and they went to G League camps, and they were told, watch these guys, watch these guys, watch these guys. But then the guy's name that kept coming up was Cam Tyson. That was the one name that kept coming up. And they were like, well, no, you got to watch this guy. And sure, there were names up here and this and that, but Tyson may have been shuffled a little lower in the deck. But they kept saying he's coming off a year of injury, but he's got so much talent. Well, then again, it came around to the roster build time, and they were like, okay, well, let's take a shot at Cam Tyson. And now they're going to be stuck with a pretty hard decision when they get some of these players coming in, because it's like, okay, you only have limited spots, as we all know, with CEBL roster construction rules. But it's kind of funny because it seemed like the impression was he was almost kind of going to be like a fill-in guy, and now he's like the man. The scouting report for him is literally remove the three-point line and just let him rack up twos. That's literally the only, like, he's allergic to anything inside the perimeter or inside the three-point line. So it's hard to, like, I know in the game on Monday night, he hit I think it was a baseline inbound, and he caught the ball in the corner and shot it with like no time on the shot clock, and he was fading out of bounds, and it was like something that literally would have had D clapping in the movie theater kind of vibe. He's unreal. Like he just jacks threes and hits from wherever he wants. And John Ross said to us too, like, he doesn't care about the time on the clock. Like, he's just playing. He doesn't care. He doesn't think. He just plays. So I guess the cliche answer as someone who doesn't have to defend him would be just don't let him get the ball. D, I think you may agree with that, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember you talked about Jermaine Anderson, and when we went to training camp, I asked him right away. I'm like, "Who's the guy that we got to keep our eye on?" Obviously, aside from Sean East, and Tyson was the guy that he was just like salivating over. He couldn't stop talking about him, and just his professionalism and his urge to prove everyone wrong, and him knowing that he'd have to come in and be a role player, and he's excelling at it. Like he's just the ultimate utility guy for them. And I'm interested to see, once Jameer comes into the mix, how he handles that, because obviously there's only so many mouths you can feed. But I love the fact that he's taking advantage of all the time that he's getting right now.
And I will add to that too. Quick scouting report on Moncrief before I ask you guys a question on the Bandits supporting fellas. But Moncrief is just like everywhere. That guy's impossible. He's another freak athlete that, like, he's so dodgy and so quick. He can slam it. He can D it up. He can shoot. He can do everything. So yeah, my best scouting report for you guys, which is pretty clear, don't let him get the ball. But we talked about our supporting cast, so Tyson, Moncrief. What about Tyrese Samuel? 21 points a game, 9 rebounds per game. That seems like a pretty good piece there for House to kind of rely on.
It's funny that you call him a supporting piece when he could easily give Mitch Creek a run for his money for MVP last year, right? But yeah. I know what you're saying. He seemed like a sideshow compared to House this year.
I think when you look at Tyrese, like obviously Canadian Player of the Year last year, but I think, and this has been identified, Chris, you've heard it in the huddle, when Tyrese actually brings the ball up the floor, it makes him so dynamic. Obviously, if there's pressure on him, they're not going to run that. But when he's able to get it up into like a half court set, and then he kind of hands it off, and then they're into a pick and roll, and he's actually rolling, but he's already brought the ball up. I think he's one of the most mobile bigs in the league. I think when they slow it down and he's catching it on the block and he has to do like a reverse and he's not playing with pace, his game is going to probably strip down to like 12 points, 8 boards. But when Tyrese is playing mobile and the Bandits are out on the run, it's a totally different dynamic. And I think that a lot of that comes down into like how many fouls does he have as well. I think if he's like below 3 at the half, obviously that's where you got to be. And then he's kind of at that 3-4 at the end of the game, not getting too close to 5. It's going to allow him to stay on the floor and play mobile and free. But Chris, you let me know what you think.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I almost feel like Tyrese needs more touches, which is crazy to say, right? Like, and it's because Jalen House is being Jalen House. But you're right. I mean, he spreads the floor, he extends the floor. He's a mid range to a 3-point shot from the corner or wherever he catches it. Like you kind of have to guard Tyrese. He's going to knock down the open 3 if he gets a look, and then he's just so dangerous in the pick and roll, especially with a guy like Jalen House. And then you bring in like Jarkel Joyner, who is also, a threat off the pick and roll with Tyrese. And so it's interesting, it was our first kind of look at Joyner, on Sunday afternoon. And he fit right in. Like I didn't know how that, like, high usage point guard with high usage point guard would look like, but he fit right in. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, maybe Jalen goes off to NBA, summer league and Joyner is there to slide in. We're waiting on Shamar Gibbons. Like, they've got those ball handling, talented point guards that can also score. And then we know, guys like Jalen, Jarkel Joyner, we know Shamar Gibbons, who also led the Bandits in assists last year, can distribute the rock as well. If I can go back to Jameer Nelson Jr. to you guys, D, maybe I'll throw this at you. Where is this how is Jameer Nelson Jr. going to fit into this group? Like, I know you already talked about, like, who's going to get the touches, like there's so many mouths to feed. Like, how is he going to add to this Brampton Honey Badgers group? Like, they're loaded on paper. And when you bring Jameer Nelson Jr. in, like, they're going to be even better. Like that, again, that 4-0 is going to 5-0, 6-0. Like, it's just going to keep climbing. First of all, when is he going to arrive? And what is he going to bring?
Yeah, so I think we've been told sometime in June. I think on the back end of June is when we are expecting to see him. So still some time till we see what that looks like. I've already talked about defensively. Like, I think these guys are going to put guys in, like, teams in his steel trap. So I'm, like, really, really excited about that. Where it gets interesting is offensively, because, when he played for Calgary, he played his best basketball when he had the ball in his hands. And the problem is, the same goes for Sean East. We haven't really seen Sean play off the ball so much. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. But I mean, both these guys are capable of being on, first team all CBL. And so I have no doubt that they'll figure it out. When it gets interesting is when we get to the summer league, like you've talked about, and which of these guys is here and which guy is not there. I mean, hopefully, best case scenario for us, it's one guy goes up and one guy stays back, and we're still good and we're holding the boat afloat. But I don't know. It is an interesting question, Chris, just because I think they both need to have the ball in their hands to be effective. But I think at the end of the day, we all know that Sean East is probably taking that final shot when it comes down to the wire. Matt, would you agree?
It's interesting. Well, before you go on, Matt, sorry to cut you off. No, it's interesting because you'd think they would just continue to get better. He's just going to bring more to this group. But at the same time, there's more mouths to feed, like you've said. There's more guys that want to get touches, that want to score. Maybe Jameer can take a little bit of a distributing role. Who knows? But on paper, they're insanely good.
Mm-hmm. Matt?
Yeah. Well, sorry, I was waiting. I just wanted to see. I'm awake. Don't worry. It's 9:30 in the East Coast right now. I'm dozing off a little bit. No, it's honestly we talked to the guys there. We thought the same thing was going to happen with Keon Ambrose Hilton, right? And we talked to the coaches and front office staff, and they basically said to us, look, there will be a time where we could have Prince Odro, Matthew Moncrief, and Keon Ambrose Hilton on the court at the same time. So I imagine it's applicable to the guards too, where it's we have such depth and opportunity to run these guys on the floor. I mean, it's foolish not to try it. And then I think it's kind of take the best medicine, what the best rotation is, what the best lineup is, and roll from it or roll with it from there. I'm gonna toss a couple numbers at you guys before I hit you with a curveball. What's the team?
Wow, you really like numbers, eh?
What is it? I'm a huge numbers guy, man. I'm a huge numbers guy. 4-0.
It's the Serta effect.
What's the baseball team? What's the baseball
Vancouver
team?
Canadians.
Vancouver Canadians. Yeah, I'm gonna throw you 12-6 like the Canadians. The Vancouver Bandits, 106 points per game, first in the CEBL. Brampton allows a league best 85 points per game. So top offense against best defense, as we alluded to. All right, we're going to start with Andrew. We'll go D, then we'll go Chris. Andrew, score prediction and who wins on Saturday, Bandits or Honey Badgers?
I mean, if I was being a coach and I wanted to be a little bit solid in this, I'd be I'm not looking past Friday against Niagara. But yes, I will answer this question.
I know we're all just disrespecting the teams in between because we've got Montreal on Thursday as well.
It is 3 games in 5 days. So if the Bandits drop it, maybe there's a bit of fatigue, but there also is a big talent thing. I'd say, you know what? I'm going to say it's going to be 93-88 Vancouver. And game winner is courtesy of Mike Mulder.
Oh, game winner. I like that curve. Nice.
Okay.
Wow, we're waiting for a Mike Mulder breakout game too. I like it. And you called the Miller Kopp breakout game a couple of games ago, so I'll give you your flowers for that. Honestly, man, I think they're in tough with Brampton. I really do. I think Brampton's going to hold down home court. I'll go 102-87. Brampton. I just think defensively, Vancouver's not there yet. They've had some lapses over the last couple of games, despite some victories on the home floor. When they break down defensively, they break down bad. And I think if that happens against Brampton, they're going to be in big trouble.
This is so tough.
Here we go. This is going to be the longest answer we ever hear.
Hey, we don't need a Christopher Nolan.
All right, I'll be back in 20
here. Yeah.
And so where I struggle is the score. I don't know if I'm going to be expecting a high scoring game or a game where these two teams buckle down and play defense, because I think they both know in order to be successful that they're going to have to play defense really well. But the thing that I can't get past and I can't underestimate understate. That's the word I'm looking for. Is the Kyle Julius factor of all this, right? We've all gotten to know Kyle Julius quite well. Chris more so than anyone, because you love to poke the bear. We can talk about that Calgary game later.
I'm glad you figured that out.
But Brampton has an opportunity on Thursday to become the first Eastern Conference team to go 5-0, to start a season 5-0. So then Saturday, they could become the first team to start out 6-0 and the last team to start out 5-0, both the Edmonton Stingers and you guys did it in 2025. And you can't tell me that Kyle's not going to slap that on a bulletin board and say, nah, that is not happening. And we want to be the guys to hand them this first loss and take them off their pedestal. As much as I want to see Brampton win, I think Vancouver comes in and gets it done. And I think it's going to be House that hits that game winner.
You know what?
Matt, we've been waiting. I know you have your biases.
We've been waiting for a Jalen House winner, man. Like, and it's almost the last couple of games, it's felt like he's like tried really hard to be the game-winning shot. You know, being that guy. So you know, you might be onto something there, D. Sorry, Matt.
I think if there's a game that two guys will want to try to outduel each other, it's gonna be East and House. Like, oh man, it's gonna be must-see television, man. I can't wait.
97. 96, Brampton, Keon Ambrose Hilton game winner. Don't ask how.
Wow.
Don't ask why.
I know how. It's an O board. It's definitely an O board.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Brampton's number one in the league at it, so you know that would not be surprised.
Touch off the glass. That puts a finishing touch on our predictions. That puts a finishing touch on this portion of the pod. Put a bow on it, fellas. You guys ready for target time?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Time now for our Target Time segment here on the Target Score Vancouver, a mix there, podcast. The first ever crossover with
Put
Target
that on
Score
a t-shirt.
Vancouver. Yeah, you know what? I gotta get Joey on the line here. We got a merchandise idea. Okay, fellas, we're gonna jump right into it. First question is for Chris. Chris, you cover the BC Lions. You can't say Nathan Rourke. Who is your CFL GOAT?
Ever, or like somebody who is playing currently?
Greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time.
All right. Greatest of all time is the air conditioner, Anthony Calvillo.
Oh, damn.
Former Montreal Alouette.
Screw up the history books right here.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the best mustaches, right? One of the best mustaches in the game.
Yeah, you look like Mario out there. Yeah. I used to be made fun of all the time for being that CFL fan growing up. All my friends were NFL guys. Look, as soon as you get into fantasy football and then you start falling in love with NFL, I was 28 years late on the NFL, so I'm here now. However, growing up, Montreal Alouette fan, Anthony Calvillo, Ben Cahoon, Keith Stokes, all those guys back in the day. Yes, I picked the team when my dad was like, yo, pick a team. You got to be a CFL fan, pick a team. Of course, I picked the team that's winning all these championships. So Anthony Calvillo is my GOAT. I'm pretty sure he still leads professional football in yards through the air. So I'll go with Anthony Calvillo. Okay, I'm going to go next. I'm going to go with, can I go?
Yeah, just follow whoever you ask. This is the first time we've ever had people do this, so it's a little roadmap around here.
A little duck goose. Okay, I'll go. This one's going to be for D. When Mark Cuban is sitting courtside in Brampton, what's the invention idea you're going to pitch to him?
Oh my God, the invention idea.
It's a little little impromptu Shark Tank. What are you going to pitch to him?
You know what? This idea might already be out there, and I know there's levels. I know you can do this on Snapchat. I know you can probably do this on some of the tracker apps. But I've always had this idea for an app called Are We There Yet? And you know when your friends are coming, they're like, I'm 20 minutes away, but they're actually 29 minutes away. I want an app that actually tells me how far they are, so then I can call them out in their bullshit when they're lying to me.
Do you mean like location on iPhone that has existed for?
But I want an actual app that is specifically for that reason. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How much money are you seeking, and how much percentage in your business?
I'm just there for the conversation, man. I don't think he's buying anything, but yeah, if there's it's gotta be the tech space, right? Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm out.
There, I know.
I'm out.
I think it's just a funner app name. Like, where are we there yet?
I like it. I'm in.
Okay, good. I got one investor. Okay, Andrew, your turn. Okay. I did probably much like Matt did. I scoped out your socials a bit. I went on your Instagram. And I see that you play some hoops. So I want to know who your NBA or CBL comparison is.
Ooh, okay. NBA, I'll go quick. NBA, definitely like CB4. Chris Bosh got me into basketball in a big way. I'm a righty, but I definitely have like a little move on the block where I'm going to my left, and I'll get like the first couple buckets, but then I'll get locked down after that, and you'll never see me score again. So that's my that's my NBA comp. CEBL, I'd say it's definitely got to be blue collar because I don't have what's called a vertical jump. It's more of like a horizontal stumble. But I'd say like, who's a good blue collar guy? Lunch pail game. You know what? I would love if I had this guy's physique, and you know, I'm gonna give. I'd say Kenny Manigo from back in the day. Like he was like a steel machine for the Bandits. Played hard. Had to play PG for like the second half of the season. And I just had a lot of respect. And I'll just say it, if there was an opportunity where when the Bandits were playing Niagara in 2021, if you went for the lob instead of the floater, Bandits could have been in the finals. That's my hot take. Go back and watch it. Vancouver versus Niagara. Actually would have been Fraser Valley versus Niagara. But if Kenny went lob to Gilbeck, Vancouver's in the championship.
Can I give you a story? You know, we talked about Jalen House, and I think, you know, we shared in our group chat how excited I was when he joined the team because I was a big Eddie House fan. Eddie House is the reason I hiked my socks up to my knees when I used to play basketball. So if you ever see Jalen, let him know that. I might tell him on Saturday, actually.
All right, Matt, this one's coming to you. So you're hanging out with The Rock. You get to be GM. And if you had to look at one former Honey Badger to bring in for the second half of this season to take this team over the top, not currently in the roster, not announced, even if you know the eventually, I don't want to hear it. But what former Honey Badger? I know what my answer would be.
I know my answer too.
I'm not going to give
out
we all
got to answer this one.
But what former Honey Badger gets this team a ring?
This is easy. I am going, and I'm gonna get greedy. Guard depth. I'm going Christian Vital.
That's my answer too.
I love the 3-ball shooting from Cam Tyson and company so far. Christian Vital had that record, 7 threes in a single game for the Honey Badger franchise, and then Tyson came in, broke that in his first game with 8. He actually hit 7 the other night too in the win on Monday. So I think that's a no-brainer. I'm taking Christian. He's just a good dude. That's the other thing too, right? Like you want good players, but another good ambassador for the game on and off the floor that could certainly pop a ring on the finger.
And if I can add to that, his teammate Caleb Agata was such a stud and just such a good leader in the locker room.
Agata was my pick.
Canadian guy.
Yeah,
what's your go?
Nice.
I mean, you could vouch for him as well.
I would have gone Kobe. I would have gone Kobe McEwen.
Fan favorite. Kobe McEwen.
I would have liked to seen Kobe, especially because you could tell that last year was a rough year for him, and he really wanted to work out.
I agree. It felt like he just didn't settle in. I agree.
And I think
if he had the year he had in Vancouver the year before that, he would.
We had really high hopes for him, and it's just obviously just not a great spot for him, and the ball didn't move around a lot in order for him to be successful last year. And I think under Serta's system, I just think he would have thrived.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All good picks. I'm switching the order here. I'm going back to Andrew.
We'll go reverse.
So investigative journalism, really good stuff here. Based off your Instagram account, you seem like a very outdoorsy kind of guy. I feel like that's natural for the West Coast fellas. What is your ideal nature activity in the Big V, Vancouver?
Oh gosh, I mean.
Wait, don't you mean Fraser Valley? Isn't that where they're from?
Langley is in the greater Vancouver. It's in the
little dig there, eh?
metropolitan area. Well, is Brampton
that guy
GTA?
lives downtown, man. That guy lives downtown.
It's 2 hours away. I'll never get that. I call it the Vancouver Frauders, but that's a totally different story.
It's like people know GTA, but no one knows GVRD. But Chris, you know what GVRD is.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Love to hike. Once upon a time, actually, shout out Brandon Gilbeck. I used to go on hikes, and he would DM me being like, "When am I coming on the next hike, man?" And I'd be like, "Dude, you're literally 7 feet. If you fall, Kyle will kill me." If I brought Gilbeck on a hike, like it would be the biggest liability issue if I hurt that man. So yeah, definitely want to bring out anyone who comes out here on a hike. So next time Brampton's at Langley Event Center, you guys got to make the trip, and we'll do a little podcast at the top.
I think you're being a little humble too. Like, tell these guys what kind of hikes you've done. Like, it's not like, you're hiking, you're doing the grouse grind every other week. Like, talk about some of the hikes you've done. Like this, haven't you been to like Patagonia?
Yes, yes, I did do Patagonia, but I will say the initiation for you guys will be when you come to Langley Event Center and you stand at gate 2. I'm going to point out a mountain straight ahead of you, and that's the rite of passage hike. It's called Golden Ears. It's a doozy, but you'll be a new man.
Yeah, D and I only wear Patagonia. We don't.
Wait, are you guys Arc'teryx bros? Are you guys Arc'teryx?
Yeah, you'll fit in very well.
Yeah, you won't catch me at Arc'teryx. That's for damn. I can barely damn say it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. I'll keep the rotation going. D, you're entrusted this year with filling the stands. Obviously, some new front office. You got Mark Cuban. Who's one person who needs to come to a Honey Badgers game who has never been before, who's going to represent and fill the stadium if people knew that they were coming?
Drake. No, that's Scarborough. That's cheating on Scarborough.
They don't have to be from Brampton, but bonus points if they're from Brampton.
That's what I'm trying to think right now. Oh my goodness. Brampton. I feel like I'm missing
Producer Joey in the chat. Joe Razzo.
Joe Razzo, yeah. Oh man. I mean, honestly, like I hate that. Like Lily Singh is a good one, but she's already made her affiliations with
Tempo, right?
With the Tempo, right? But like obviously big South Asian community in Brampton, and you know, you see that reflected with some of the partnerships they made. Obviously Superfan has become an ambassador of the team as well. Yeah, like I mean I'm reaching in my bag here, but like there's a massive Punjabi artist called Diljit Dosanjh, and he sold out in Vancouver, and he sold out at MSG and stuff like that. So I mean it's a little out of category for you guys in maybe your music genre, but I think it has to be like a massive South Asian music superstar. Definitely would fill that place out. Or another TNA wrestler, because when Santino Morello or whatever his name came, I was quite shocked how many people.
Whatever his name, Santino Morello, the guy's a legend.
I know. I just I knew it was gonna butcher his last name, but yeah, if he brings the sock puppet, like we're set. Yeah. Did you have a suggestion?
Gosh, I'm not on the Honey Badgers payroll, so I can't help.
Chris, okay, mine's a two-parter because one's more to make fun of you, but then I have a serious one. But I'm curious. All right.
Okay.
You've made this ascent into hosting, right? You're a weather guy now. You know, you're reporting the news. You know, but it seems like everything you do, you'll always be in the shadows of your superstar wife. What is it like?
I knew this was coming.
Ever get to her level.
I knew this was coming. Honestly, man, when you said the ascent and hosting, I knew there was going to be something about my wife. And this is like a Colin Jost and what's his wife's name?
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson, thank you. That's literally like the SNL joke. Honestly, man, I am totally fine with taking a backseat to her career. For those who don't know, my wife is Kat Stefankovich. She danced with the Raptors for I'm gonna do the whole thing.
We love
I'm gonna do the whole thing now that you called me out. She's danced with the Raptors for 5-10 years, was a dance pack captain. Then she did
I don't think we have time for her resume, man.
No, man, honestly. Then she did the in-game stuff with Strizzy, and then the pandemic happened. The Raptors went to the bubble in Orlando. I took a job in BC. I was like, this is when we were dating. I was like, I'm going to go to BC. You want to come? Like, she didn't know what was going to happen next. So, but to answer your question, I'm totally fine with being in her shadow. There is no resume that I can build that will top hers. And so sometimes I feel like it's helped my career a little bit as well. And I'm totally fine with saying that.
I told you, nepotism, man. It's a
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, no, but my fun, serious question is: you're a closet R&B fan. Who are your top 3 R&B artists?
Oh man, well you know, C Breezy is up there for number 1. I am a little bit of a closeted R&B fan. I'll go Chris Brown 1, Usher 2, Neo 3.
Yeah, you can't beat that. That's tough.
Yeah,
that's good.
You can't really beat that. And a little bit of a backstory. Dee posted something about a Breezy concert ticket he purchased, and I responded. I was like, man, I would do anything to go to that. We got kind of talking about our fandom, and I sent him a picture of a drunken night at my cottage with some of my buddies from high school, literally ranking Chris Brown albums by hand. And he was like, I need proof. And I took a picture and I was like, I'm a closeted Steve Reezy guy. So that's going to be a great show. When is that show, by the way?
It's Elite List. It's Usher and Chris Brown in August. Can't wait, man.
God.
Yeah.
So good, man. So good. Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way. And I will mention that to Kat. That I'm glad you called me out.
That's going to be the breakout clip for Joey.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. This one is for Matt, but I think we're all going to have an answer as well. Bonomi, the CEBL call, and they say, we're going to expand. Pick a city. Coast to coast to coast in Canada. What city's next? Who got next?
This is a great question.
Well,
I have my answer.
Yeah, I've heard some rumblings about possible spots.
He's going to say Port Dalhousie.
Port Dalhousie for
Dalhousie.
Dalhousie. It's not Dalhousie. Oh, man.
English isn't my first language. Give me a break, bro.
No comment. I think there are obvious. Like I know we've heard stuff about like potentially in Quebec City. I think Kelowna was on maybe the short list as well. If I had to pick though, I mean, I'm gonna be really selfish here and keep it in Ontario. I want a team in Kitchener. I want Jamal Murray to join a group. I want like Andrew Nicholson's always at the games. It would be sick to see like SGA buy in. Like I get a group of guys that are all NBA guys that can find change in their couch to come together to buy a team. And not saying that these teams are cheap, but I mean, like for those guys, it's a perfect opportunity to fork out some cash and then build the game in their own community. Like we know how much these guys care about basketball in Canada, and again, in their own community, getting people involved. I would love to see Kitchener. I mean, I think Dean could go back to the days of Guelph where there was a little bit of a following for Guelph. I mean, there was a lot of solid. We talked about it earlier on J. Cole making his CEBL debut in Guelph. Like there was as a visitor, no, it wasn't a visitor, was he? Yeah, he was a visitor, right? Yeah, it was Scarborough. But like that kind of thing, like small community. And I think in Hamilton too, like it was such blue collar, hard hat work boots kind of thing. Like Canadian people will live and die for their sports, similar to what you guys would see out west, right? Like you guys have a great following in Vancouver, even the Lions. Yeah. People love these sports and they're almost protective of them. So it's almost like the smaller the community, the tighter the feel and the bigger the following, as weird as that sounds. So I would love to see Kitchener and those guys like Murray, Nicholson and SGA or something, especially Murray, because I think he's from Kitchener or in and around that area. But it would be unreal to see them fork out some dough here and make it happen.
By the way, I miss those Royal City jerseys with Guelph. They were so good. They were so good. I know you got someone. I don't doubt it. I didn't expect to hear Kitchener. I really like that. I like the Jamal Murray, angle with that, and I'll let Dee and Sabre answer this as well. I would love to see an Atlantic Canada team. I'd love to see Halifax.
You took my answer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No.
Newfoundland had a cup of coffee in the CEBL. Obviously, that didn't work out.
Yeah,
but I want to give another shot.
I don't know. I just I love Halifax. Like selfishly, I love Halifax waterfront, like the lower deck, like all the spots in Halifax. They've got the arena for it. I remember like that old, National Basketball League of Canada. I used to do way back in the day. I used to do like PA announcing for the Oshawa Power in their first season. I was like in my second year of college, driving back and forth from Niagara to Oshawa, and the Halifax Rain Man had a team.
Wait, did you say Niagara to Oshawa?
I went to Niagara College, and I would drive from Niagara, Welland, Ontario to Oshawa to do public address announcing for the Oshawa Power. It was awesome. It was so fun. And that league was like the first taste of like what we're experiencing and what we've seen flourish with leagues in Canada. And the Halifax Rain Man had a team. But I also just love the city of Halifax. I'd love to see Atlantic Canada get a team.
That's a good one. I feel actually CBL connection. I think Joey Haywood and Shane Gibson both played for the Rain Men, if I'm not mistaken.
Shane Gibson did. Gibson did for sure. He did. Yeah.
Joey Haywood, I'm pretty sure did too. Yeah. But that was going to be my pick. But now that I'm thinking about it, I really enjoyed. I don't want to say Kelowna because there's been a lot of talk. Matt, you alluded to it. Hopefully, Kelly Olynyk, if you're listening, you're in Kamloops, but it's close by. So just think about working on some change. Would love to see it. I'm up on Victoria, but I would choose Kelowna first, I think. I'd love to see another revisitation to the Videotron Center, if I'm referring to that arena properly, in Quebec City. CBL Clash, for those who remember that event. The arena looked great. I think it was built with NHL aspirations, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had like 7 or 8K people there in attendance when they did that. I think that was 2023, gentlemen, unless someone corrects me, when they did Clash.
Right.
I think Quebec City's a lot of fun. I think they got some grit. You're getting to see a lot more Quebecois players in the CBL. And I think they get a strong English-French contingent there. It'll be a lot of fun. I think they play with their heart on their sleeve, and I think it would tend pretty well too.
KD, get creative here because I stole your answer, so I want to hear something really good.
Oh, good God. I mean, I think London would be a great city if we had west on the 401. Like, we don't have a team out that way. Yeah, I know that there's a huge basketball community there. The Western basketball program's on the rise too. So I think they would fill up. Like, you want to tap into some of these smaller markets where that's what they have. Like, that is their team. That's kind of what I know. Guelph never really sold out, but they really, really love that team, and they had a great fan base. And I think if you give it a fair shot, and as I say to Matt, but he never gets the reference. But if you build it, they will come. And I think if you just kind of just give it a chance, hopefully you two get that reference, because Matt just shakes his head at me every time when I make.
I will say I'm on the same level of movie references as Matt, but I do get that one.
Okay, good, solid.
I do get
great
that
sports movie, Matt. Field of Dreams. Come on, Kevin Costner.
Hey, man. Hey, I don't know what you're talking about. We're getting way too far into movies now, and then we're gonna be talking about Star Trek, and Dee's gonna be throwing up all this, whatever the heck all that.
Anyway, Vancouver, baby.
Good enough, fellas. We all hit target time winners there. Thanks for playing. You guys were awesome, and I think as long as we don't talk about movies, this won't have to be edited out. But anyway, we all hit the winners. Thanks for playing, fellas. Appreciate you guys joining us and forming the Fantastic Four.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Man, that it's so funny. Like you pick a time to try to hit with these conversations, with these interviews, and you're like, yeah, man, no, we'll jump on 10, 15 minutes, turns into 45 minutes. That was a fantastic chat. Matt and Dee have so much fun on that Target Score Brampton podcast. So you can find them anywhere you find your podcast, just like us. Target Score Vancouver, Target Score Winnipeg, Target Score Brampton, all part of the Target Score network. Great chat with Matt and Dee, and that's just going to be an incredible game. Must-see TV, as I mentioned before the chat.
Yeah, for those who want to tune into that one, obviously we're just chopping it up with Matt and Dee, but you're looking at a big one, 4 p.m. Pacific. Try to get off work early, ask your boss, put it on, stream it on your phone. Who knows if someone catches you? Not going to promote any misbehavior, but of course, 7 o'clock Eastern as well. Chris, I feel like we had some predictions talking to Matt and Dee. I honestly probably even want to change my prediction. I think I said it was a 5-point win for the Bandits. I think it's going to be less than a 5-point spread. I really think it's going to come down to the wire. We gave him some shout outs, but I think it's worth mentioning. Like, you have 2 former Stingers on that squad, Shawnee's II, Keon Ambrose Hilton, one of the top Canadian bigs in the league. And I just think there's going to be activity around the rim. You have the perimeter threat in Cam Tyson. Can the Bandits learn what they didn't do against Evan Gilliard and make that happen against Cam Tyson? Obviously, he's a shooter. Gilliard's a slasher, a driver, able to shoot as well. I think there's just so much on the scouting report. It's not going to be easy for the coaches, and that's just a popcorn game. Let's sit down on the couch, let's have a blast, and probably your heart rate's going to go up, and you may be even a little bit stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fantastic, and so make sure you tune into that one. CBC Sports YouTube page. You can also find it on CBC Gem, and of course, CBL Plus. So Bandits off to an Ontario road trip this week, stopping in Niagara, and then heading to Brampton to take on the undefeated Honey Badgers. So you don't want to miss those 2 games this week. Lots to look forward to, lots to maybe consider when we're looking, and for fans to watch for these upcoming games. Again, like I alluded to it with Matt and Dee, it really feels it's kind of a weird vibe with this team, with this Vancouver team, man. It's funny. Like, I asked Kyle Julius, I just said, like, hey, what's the overall vibe within this club? What's the overall vibe in the dressing room? Are guys gelling? Are guys feeling good? And he honestly, man, he candidly said, not great. And I had to ask him, I had to repeat it back to him. I said, did you say not great? He said, yeah, not great, and I think it's because, a lot of the guys that are on our floor right now, on our roster, on our bench, know that there are 4, 5, 6 guys that we are waiting on. So some of these guys may be placeholders, maybe they're not, and so when you're playing for your job's on the line, you don't really know where you're going to be next week. That can kind of create a tense environment. I shouldn't say kind of, it will create a tense environment. And I said to Kyle, I was like, look, I can imagine that is affecting, that's affecting, performance on the floor. He said, of course it is. Of course it is. We may not have seen that, lack of performance against Edmonton and Calgary. I think there were some lapses, but 2 great victories last weekend at home, to kind of build some confidence heading into this Ontario road trip. But long story short here is it really does feel like this team doesn't really have an identity yet. And I'm interested to see, what happens now that they've put, 2 good wins together and how this momentum carries on into the first game against Niagara. Like, what is this team's identity going to be? It feels like, they're a high octane kind of run and gun. They've got a high usage point guard who wants to get paint touches, who also wants to do the majority of the scoring and ball handling, but he also can distribute. We saw 17 assists, breaking a CBL single game record a couple of games ago. So what is this team's identity? I really don't know how to answer that.
This weekend's road trip is going to be a question of what happens when an unstoppable force, the Bandits' best offense in the league, 106 points a game, meets the league's best defense, an immovable object, the Brampton Honey Badgers. And this team's going to have to look inward, and they're going to have to answer that question against the reigning 2-time champs, and then against a team that has some really impressive new pieces that's hungry to get to a semifinal or further in the playoffs in the Ottawa Blackjacks. They got there, of course, when they hosted Champ Weekend, but I think they want to earn it, and I think they've been getting close. And they have the brother of, as of announced today, the NBA's Coach of the Year, and Justin Mazzulla, of course, and Joe Mazzulla. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to tune into all 3 games. But I think as we look ahead and what the narrative is going to be is, what does the bench look like? What do your secondary pieces look like? Can your primary alphas take a secondary backseat if someone else is scoring? If it's Tyrese's night and Jalen needs to keep feeding him, does Tyrese need to, for example, keep going on that front of things? And then also you look at Dwayne Notice, 4 for 4 from 3-point range. I think, what does his future look like? Can he continue to fire at that proficiency? And then Mutabazi in the starting lineup as well. Can he give you steady contributions while you wait for reinforcements?
Let's give Dwayne Notice his flowers too with the charges, man. Like, this guy's stepping in like he's Kyle Lowry, and like that, that kind of changed the feel of that game against Edmonton. A couple of Dwayne's charges, the bench gets up, they stand up, they're clapping, they're feeling good, and that really kind of changed the momentum, in my opinion, when Dwayne came in. And it almost felt like it was, I don't think it was back-to-back charges, but it was certainly on the same shift for him. Maybe a couple possessions in between each other, but Dwayne's a winner, man. Dwayne's a, again, I use this term a lot. He's got championship pedigree. He's a winner. He's won a couple of times with the Sudbury Five, right? Sudbury Five. Yeah, the Basketball Super League, the BSL. So, this guy knows how to win. This guy knows how to, to compete at the highest level. And so, big minutes from Dwayne Notice, big minutes from Dom Perolin. This week's going to be a big week for the Vancouver Bandits. Predictions, like, do you think they're going to go 3-0? Like, where's your head at with this week? I think escaping 2-1 is a win. I really do. I think again, I've alluded to it in the chat with Matt and D. And then just, on our conversation as well, I think Brampton's going to be a very tough game. I think it's going to be a very tough win on Brampton's home floor. So 2-1 is a win, in my opinion. 3-0 is great. 2-1 is a win. Where are your thoughts at?
I was going to say, I think, what was Calgary last year? 17-7, Vancouver 19-5. I don't want to say gone are the years of CBL where you're going to have those top heavy teams. I think it's going to be a little bit more crowded at the top, both in the East and the West. And I think if Vancouver comes home 2-1, you're going to take that knowing that you were facing pretty top tier competition from a conference versus conference perspective. So I think you take that, especially knowing that you're kind of playing on yes, a BC home game, but neutral territory as we look ahead to Kelowna as well. Saskatoon Mamba come in. They're going to want to give you their best shot. They're still winless. We'll see how they rank, obviously, when they come to Kelowna. But I think a 2-1 road trip, and then you come to the sunny Okanagan, beaches, wine country, etc., lakeside. I think it's a really nice mix for Vancouver. And over that kind of like 3 road game, 1 home game in Kelowna swing, this team's going to know exactly what it is by the time those 4 games are done.
So back-to-back for the Vancouver Bandits as they start this road trip. Friday the 29th in Niagara at the Meridian Center. Saturday the 30th against the Brampton Honey Badgers at the CAA Center. Then they get a day or 2 off. June 2nd is a Tuesday against the Ottawa Blackjacks at the arena at TD Place. So a really tough road trip coming up for the Vancouver Bandits. And then, like you say, they come back to British Columbia. The first home game played outside of the Lower Mainland. Looking forward to being on the beach. And this, I again, talked to Kyle preseason about this weekend. It's more than just one basketball game. They're partnering with a youth basketball tournament, one of the biggest in the province. There's going to be some coaching clinics. There's going to be some open practices. Fans are going to get up close and personal with these guys. There's a one-on-one tournament on the beach. So quite the setting for a home game. Can't wait to get to Kelowna. I know you and I will be there. It's going to be great to see the fans from the Okanagan. And hopefully, I know we talked about this a little bit with the guys from Brampton. Hopefully, maybe in the near future, we get a Kelowna CEBL team, and maybe there's a little bit of a nice rivalry there.
Yeah, going to be a ton of fun. I think it's going to be packed. Obviously, the game's at Prospera Place. There's going to be a big walk-up crowd. You're going to want to get your ticket in advance. So I know they're going to have a few fun things from a game entertainment perspective and first taste of pro basketball for the fans of the Okanagan.
All right, that does it for episode 3 of the Target Score Vancouver podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Again, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, on Instagram at Target Score Pod, P-O-D. Thanks to Matt Bonomi. Thanks to D for doing the Avengers, the Fantastic Four episode. Vancouver Bandits taking on the Niagara River Lions, the defending champs, on Friday at the Meridian Center. It is a 7 o'clock Eastern tip. Make sure you are on CBC Sports YouTube, CBC Gem, or CBL Plus for that one. That kicks off that 3-game road trip for the Vancouver Bandits. Okay, until next time, episode 4 coming up later next week. Thank you, Savory. We'll do this again soon.
Signing off, man. See you soon.